What happens when you completely quit social media as a music producer? I went 30 days in complete isolation from social media, yes, not even checking my own videos view counts, to see if social media really poses a big issue to creatives like you and me. With how important these apps have become to the creative process, putting your music out there, etc., they sometimes can also become an addiction, like an unhealthy relationship. But is that really the problem we're facing? Maybe this is a complete stretch. So I'm going to be tackling those questions, and by the end of this, I realized something that not even I expected. Before we go into these 4 weeks, I want to set the scene for why I even did this in the first place. In the months prior, I started really getting consistent in short form content, trying to prioritize the music rather than these elaborate long form videos like what you're watching now. And this was great for just putting in a bunch of reps in and being able to get consistent with just posting my music and sharing that to the world. But it also had its downside, because now being all caught up in these social media platforms, the gratification was so instant. When I'd post, I'd instantly get feedback on how the video did, and I started to attach my music to that way too much. It was very unhealthy. You might say, just get off it then, it's so simple, just don't look at it like that. But it really was not that easy. And this felt like it was taken away from my creativity as a whole, whether that was in content creation or in my music. So while this seems like an extreme approach, taking 30 days completely isolated from all of it, I felt like it was needed. And by the end of this, we'll see if it even was, or if this is something you should try as well. And what I realized in these 4 weeks was that there was 4 major turning points. But that all starts in week 1. The week started very odd. It felt so different when I'd post something and it was almost just like nothing. I spent however long on a short form video and I couldn't see if anyone saw it. And with this, I didn't know if any of these videos would perform. I didn't know what was performing or how to optimize if they aren't. This felt so unnatural. But in the same way, as the point of the challenges is that this was so liberating creatively. I can post and I have no attachment to what people think, the numbers I get, and I can just make whatever I want. At least that's what the idea was. But in the first week, it almost backfired in a way. I ended up posting less, and I ended up feeling so detached from the content and the creation that I felt like a lack of desire for it. I knew this wasn't right, that this was not at all the perspective I should be taking in this challenge. And while I didn't post very much and I felt completely detached to the content, I did tend to produce a bit more. And one specific thing I did was sing on my own track and post it too. This is something I felt friction to do for a long time. Not because I have like a great voice or anything, it's just I like singing, or I wanted to do it on my own tracks, but I've always felt almost shy or embarrassed to do so in public or posting it out there for people to see. A challenge like this was perfect to do that. And while I didn't really post that much, I still made a song with my own voice. If you want to see it, you can check my pages like Instagram, TikTok, or even look at the first video on this challenge. I have a note on just that, the first week of this challenge specifically, if you want to check that out. But as this week ended, I felt that first turning point. The realization that it was all dependent on the way I perceive this challenge. If I'm posting and I have a complete detachment to the content and I'm just lose that desire altogether, that's not the point. What I need to do for this next week was just post relentlessly, like do as much as possible, and really tap back into that passion, motivation, and desire that I used to have for music and content. And it's starting to make me think, if this is the case, if me leaving myself to create something based on purely my passion for it is now leading me to not create as much, do I really still have this passion as deeply as I used to? And so week 2 comes, and with this new realization, I felt like I had a fire that was sparked within me. Almost like this first week was like me having some addiction withdrawals or something, where me getting off of the social media completely needed just some time to get back into my flow of things. Now I felt motivated and I had the desire to make music, but not in the way I expected. I wanted to be able to post short form content like a ton, like a lot, and get consistent with it, try to grow, right, without caring what people think. But what ended up happening was I continued to produce music, and my desire, my focus started to shift on making these long form videos. That's where my motivation started going. Telling stories, not these short form videos that I couldn't really pack emotion into. I started to think, how am I going to monetize this? How am I going to grow this music career with this content? And I, again, for some reason, lost the focus on the short form content. So this was interesting. And this was the second turning point. How come when I get rid of all the distraction, when my mind is feeling clearer than ever, and now I have full focus, is when what I desire to do, not the short form content? I was torn. and I still am, because I love being consistent in short form content. It felt like there's so much growth in that. And this reminds me of a concept I heard about quite a while ago, and it's kind of like brain points. Think of your brain as a finite space. When you are distracted and you're using your phone a ton, when you're watching videos, doing anything but the things you care about, that's filling your brain with information. And because of this, it's almost like that motivation for that thing is going to get smaller and smaller because there's not enough space for it, because your mind is occupied by things that aren't that. And a lot of people are like, in this place where they're stuck and they lack motivation, and they think they need to get back into these things. They need to add onto their lives these things to get back into their motivation or their grind or whatever, get back to locked in. And I think what makes more sense and what's more effective is actually subtracting. Because if you get rid of all the fluff, get rid of all these distractions, what do you have left but the original desire that you had? That's what's left, and that's what you're going to start thinking of. And so I got rid of this fluff, which was that weird addiction to these short form content, or like, at least not like that was a bad addiction, but as in like my addiction to checking analytics and to getting that dopamine spike. Once I got rid of that, my focus was more clear, and I started to think about the things that originally used to always matter to me, which was always the long form content and the music itself. But I didn't want to let go of the short form content, you know? And so on week 2, I was like finishing 2 of these tracks that I've been working on for a while. I finally felt like I got the ideas down for them. And I had to go into week 3 with this new idea in mind, this second turning point. I didn't know what were my goals really. How did I want to make this career, this music production thing work? So week 3 hits, and I feel like I'm still just riding the same wave as week 2. Now I have this kind of idea in my head that's lingering. What do I really want? It's clear that I love these long-form, story-driven videos and using my music within them. But there still is a desire for the short form. So how do I balance all this? And maybe this is something that you might struggle with too. Where do you find your focus? If you want to do all these things, how do you do it without spreading yourself so thin? A quote that I recently heard that really changed my perspective a little bit: inspiration finds you in the work. A lot of people search for the inspiration so that then they can get to work on this thing. But sometimes, almost all the time, the work or the difficult part is what goes first. Start with the difficult task, then amidst that, once you break that barrier of difficulty, then the inspiration will find you and that flow of creativity will come through. This goes for music production. When you wait for the creativity in order to produce, you're hardly going to produce at all. And that felt like my third turning point. But now it's week 4. Nothing crazy happened in week 4 until the end of it, when the challenge is over. I was looking through my analytics finally, after this whole month of having no clue whether anything performed. To no crazy surprise, I had a pretty steady state of like views and engagement. It's not like I blew up or fell off. Some things were lower, some things a little bit higher. Part of me was a little discouraged. Like, was all this really doing anything? Did this whole month go to nothing? Did I post less now that I was doing this challenge because now I'm all in my head? Is me focusing on long form going to sacrifice this short form content that I've been working on for months, being consistent? Am I just gonna throw it all away? How am I gonna balance it all? These are all questions that were running through my head. But then I started to think, when I'm looking back at this, like a third person perspective, I'm looking at these analytics and I'm, again, taking that information and imposing a belief onto myself. I looked at these numbers and I said, maybe this isn't worth it. But I would have never even had that thought to begin with if I continued the challenge, if I continued not looking at these analytics. So what do I get from this? Honestly, I didn't even realize until quite a bit after the challenge was over. You can see there's a big delay on me posting these videos because really the biggest impact this had was after. I took kind of like a break, not like a purposeful break, but I just didn't feel driven. I felt like I fell back to where I was from the start. But then I started to look back and I had a shift. I started producing more and I started to be more consistent in short form. I went back to daily, sometimes twice daily, and I started to see consistent growth. I was using my time more wisely and I started getting into routine. I started building up good habits and I started working on even these long form videos. And I realized I can't be so short-sighted. The second you let off the gas and you stop working on these things and stop having that intensity for all these things you might be passionate about, you're losing momentum. And that was momentum that I built, that I've been building with these short-form videos. But you can't look at the videos you made in your past week and think, wow, I've only gained 20 views. Because growth, as any successful person will tell you, is exponential. Are you here for the next year? Because if that's the case, then you might as well not even be here at all. When you think long term, when you think big picture, what are you trying to build? You don't want an overnight success. Most people that have that plummet because they didn't learn the lessons that the build of it gives you. You know what I mean? I want to build something that'll last, not something that comes and goes quick. A lot of people I've heard say is put your dopamine in the posting of it, in the creation. You should be happy with how much you're creating and how much you're growing, not with how much numbers are growing or how much comments are getting. And so I started to become more consistent than ever, than I ever have, especially in short form content. I was producing music that I loved, and I was posting, and I saw growth, and I saw people translate into plays and people enjoying the music, and that's like the best feeling ever. And how can I just lose that? And of course, life is still going to always have these up and downs. I'm still figuring it out, and what I'm telling you now is not from perspective of I've made it, so here's how to do it. It's just my journey. This is just what I'm thinking right now. But that was the last turning point, this longer term thinking. Sometimes you really do need to just enjoy the process and love what you're doing while you're doing it, because there's never going to be a point in time where you made it. There's always going to be more to get, more problems to have. So if you can't love the process now, you never will. Well, hope you learned something. Check out all my short form content, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube Shorts right here. See ya.